Welcome to the lecture for Chapter 16 that looks at meetings and events. Although technology continues to grow and impact our lives, Chapter 16 reminds us of the importance of face-to-face communication. Meetings and events allow us to see each other and interact through all five senses. Meetings and events, however, just don't happen. We have to be aware of what it takes to put these together, so we will be prepared when we are in that situation. This lecture goes over the major types of meetings and events PR professionals will plan in their careers. Let's begin by looking at group meetings. Meetings are a popular way to bring people together. There are millions of meetings a year for civic clubs, professional societies, trade associations, and hobby groups. There are several things that need to be considered when planning a meeting. These include planning, registration, and the program. Let's begin with planning. The textbook identifies a few things that you need to consider when planning your group meeting. First, you should think about location. You need to ask yourself if the room you plan to have the group meeting in needs to be reserved and if the room will hold everyone that plans to attend. You should also consider the seating in the room. Not only do you have to have enough seats for everyone, but you need to consider how to set them up so people can listen to someone speak or so people can interact. You also need to consider facilities and invitations. Another part of group meetings is registration. A PR practitioner should always have someone in charge of a greeting or a representative who welcomes attendees at the entrance of the room. You should also consider name tags, which are almost always a good idea. And you should also think about the program, or what people who are attending the meeting will either listen to or do while they're there. Oftentimes, PR practitioners line up a speaker to speak at a meeting. Speakers should be chosen months in advance. And oftentimes, a group meeting will occur during a meal. If you're in charge of this, you need to ask what type of meal should be provided. And you'll also have to have an accurate count of how many people will attend so everyone will get a meal. Banquets are a second type of event that you might be in charge of as a PR practitioner. By definition, these are fairly large and formal functions that are held to honor an individual, raise money for a charity, or celebrate an event. These require invitation packages that are mailed to prospective guests because it typically is a special event. Banquets can range from 100 to 1,000 people. Planners need to consider food, room rental, bartenders, decorations and centerpieces, audiovisual requirements, speaker fees, entertainment, photographers, invitations, tickets, and marketing and promotion. Banquets have considerable logistics and planning that have to be figured out. A PR practitioner should develop 3 timelines. One timeline for the entire process from beginning to end, one timeline to plan out the few days before or the day of the event, and one timeline for the event itself. I encourage you to view a sample of the timelines on page 423. Another type of event is receptions and cocktail parties. The purpose of these is to get people to socialize. The focus should be on interaction and not speeches, but if you do have a speech, it should only last 5 to 10 minutes. Receptions and cocktail parties usually last up to 2 hours. The location should allow people to stand and move freely rather than sitting down. These require a lot of planning. You need to think about food that can be eaten while standing up. Usually appetizers are always a good idea. Most receptions include a hosted bar that offers alcoholic drinks, but you should always include non-alcoholic drinks as well. Items such as coffee, tea, and even punch are good options. Open houses and plant tours are conducted primarily to develop a favorable opinion about an organization. Customarily, these are one-day affairs and attendees are invited, but sometimes they are open to the public, media, and anyone who chooses to attend. These must be planned well since they try to give a favorable view of the organization. There are several major factors a PR practitioner needs to consider. These include the day and hour of the event, how many guests will attend, the publicity and invitations, vehicles that will be needed, the reception itself, a focal point or activity for the guests, restrooms, safety, routing, guides, an explanation of either the plant or the product, housekeeping and attire, and emergency situations. Conventions are a series of meetings usually spread out over 2 days or more. The purpose of these is to bring people together to exchange information, discuss and act on common problems, and enjoy recreation and social interchange. These are most often held by national membership groups and trade associations. Because conventions are almost always out of town for those who attend, the following, like some of the other events, needs to be considered. First is planning, and that includes the timing of the convention, the location, the facilities that you will use, and the exhibits. And you also need to think about the program. What recreation and entertainment will be provided, how many people will attend, and administration of the overall convention. Another popular event are trade shows. These are known as the ultimate marketing event. About 6,000 trade shows are held annually in the U.S. and range in size from several thousand to over 100,000 attendees. About 65 million people attend trade shows on an annual basis. There are 3 major things a PR person needs to know about in relation to a trade show: exhibit booths, hospitality suites, and press rooms. Exhibit booths should be planned 6 to 12 months in advance of the trade show. These give people an opportunity to interact with a product or an organization at a booth. PR practitioners should use involvement techniques such as a raffle or even free massages. There should be bright colors and large signs to get people's attention. You should always have knowledgeable staff run the booth in order to answer questions. And it's also a good idea to have keychains or luggage tags to offer as useful souvenirs. Hospitality suites are usually done in conjunction with an exhibit booth. They are used to entertain key prospects, give more in-depth presentations, and talk about business. Although food and entertainment are usually provided in a hospitality suite, the main purpose is to generate leads that can result in sales. And finally, press rooms are very often used at trade shows. This is where exhibitors distribute media kits and other information to journalists. Although this is great for journalists to attend, almost every journalist wants to hear about companies and products before the show starts. Media relations starts before the show, continues through the show, and afterwards, the PR professional has to do follow-ups with all of the journalists to provide additional information. Promotional tours are a final event that the textbook discusses. These are usually planned to promote a product, increase organizational visibility, to make friends, and to raise money for a charitable cause. Creativity is the one essential skill you need for these. PR professionals need to think of something that is different that can create an interest. Grand openings are relatively routine, so it is important to think of new and exciting things to celebrate and promote. PR practitioners often use celebrities as guest appearances at promotional tours. You also need to consider the overall planning and logistics that a promotional tour would require. Thank you for listening to this brief lecture on meetings and events. Today we talked about group meetings, banquets, receptions and cocktail parties, open houses and plant tours, conventions, trade shows, and promotional tours. These are all popular and effective ways that use face-to-face communication to enhance relationships. It is important for us to be aware of the types of events that exist and all of the required planning needed to make them successful.